So I think that there are two reasons for this visit by Senators Lindsey Graham and Elizabeth Warren. The first, of course, is that they wanted to visit the American troops which are stationed there because of the 4th of July holiday. It's an important holiday here in the United States. It's when we celebrate our independence from Great Britain. But I think a second reason clearly is that we want to rebuild relations with the Kurdistan region. I think that there have been a number of difficulties since particularly last fall with the referendum and the events that happened since then. And I think that perhaps by visiting Erbil on July 4th, this was also sending a message to both the Americans who are stationed in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, but also that we want to rebuild relations with the Kurdistan regional government of Iraq. And the consulate, I think, it's clearly an important location for the United States to be, Erbil, and I think by expanding the size of the current consulate is one indication of how important the Kurdistan region is for the United States. Well, I think that Erbil and Soleimani, the larger region of the Kurdish region of Iraq, has been important to the United States for a long time, in fact. I think that the United States has been very focused on the fight against the Islamic State for the past few years. And this is, I think, going to continue but our interests are not just in the fight against the Islamic State, but we have a larger interest in stability in the region, to make sure that the refugees and the IDPs are able to return home, that they're able to return home to a stable environment. The United States is concerned about the minorities, the Yazidis, the Christians, Shia, Sunni. We're concerned about all of, the citizens of Iraq and the Kurdistan region. And I think that this consulate is simply a sign of U.S. interest in the region, and that we see the Kurdistan region as an important ally. I think it's understandable that the Kurds of Iraq and anyone who supported this referendum would be disappointed by the events and by the U.S. position. However, the United States did make clear that they thought that the timing was not right. They thought that September was not the right time to hold this referendum. They thought it would distract from the fight against the Islamic State. And there are a number of other reasons which I won't go over now here. But the fact is that the U.S. did state this position, clearly. And I think they were hoping that they could find another time period which might have been more appropriate to hold the referendum. It's also true, however, that John Bolton, who is now the National Security Advisor, he actually had previously criticized the U.S. position in an article that he published in early October, so after the referendum on September 25, but before the events on October 16 and 17, in which John Bolton actually criticized the U.S. lack of support for the referendum. Now, whether now that he's a part of the administration, whether he will continue to, continue with his previous beliefs is not clear yet. So I don't want to raise expectations that the United States is suddenly going to change its policy towards Iraq, which is, of course, that it's interested in a unified Iraq. So I also, of course, have to mention the fact that I'm an independent scholar and researcher. I don't work for the Trump administration, so I'm speaking, merely on my own behalf as somebody who's analyzing and trying to understand what the Trump administration is doing and the Trump administration's policy in the Middle East, which is sometimes very difficult to predict, in fact. Well, I think that the United States is concerned about the expansion of Iranian influence in Iraq and in Syria, in Lebanon. So this is why I think many people believe that the events after October 16 and 17 were not actually in the U.S. interest, that we now see an expansion of Shia militias in different parts of Iraq. This is something that I think the administration is going to have to find a policy towards, and that, at the time being, there's not yet a coherent policy towards this.